America is back. The adults are back in charge. There's been several spins on Biden's 2020 election win over Trump, and today we got to see what an adult actually looks like as Biden addressed a room full of other adults. As we've learned over the last several months, being adult is saying all the right things while essentially getting nothing done. As I watched today's UN speech, I knew it was going to be our big topic tonight, but I didn't expect the president to name off so many pieces of horrible foreign policy, liberal foreign policy, all at once. It made our job very easy today. Hands down the best soundbite of the week right here. Here's the president bragging about America's return to futility.
We're back at the table in international forums, especially the United Nations, to focus attention and to spur global action on shared challenges. We are re-engaged at the World Health Organization and working in close partnership with COVAX to deliver life-saving vaccines around the world. We rejoined the Paris Climate Agreement, and we're running to retake a seat in the Human Rights Council next year at the UN.
The United Nations, the Paris Climate Accord, the Human Rights Council, the World Health Organization, all in one. It's like a greatest hits of the most useless organizations and agreements that the world has ever known. These are the priorities when the adults are back in charge, you see. Where to begin on this? The United Nations, of course, has long been a joke, the absolute pinnacle of globalism, a hyper-liberal institution with a clear disdain for Israel and a globalist agenda centered around the distribution of American wealth all over the world. The UN hates you, the hardworking American living in a safe community, but the UN needs your money. The UN headquarters in Midtown Manhattan has become an embarrassment to New York City. Trump wanted to throw them out of Manhattan. It would have been epic if he had done so. A pillar to government bureaucracy and fecklessness, a hollow shell of what was intended when it was founded after World War II. The UN is so useless it allows countries committing human rights abuses to weigh in on human rights on its Human Rights Council, a council we withdrew from under Trump, with former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley leading that charge. Here's Haley after pulling out 3 years ago.
The world's most inhumane regimes continue to escape scrutiny, and the Council continues politicizing and scapegoating of countries with positive human rights records in an attempt to distract from the abusers in their ranks.
She says the obvious, the liberals all gasped. Oh, we're out of the Human Rights Council? How could we? But don't worry, the adults are now back in the room, so we're going to rejoin China on the Human Rights Council as they enslave Muslims in Xinjiang province. Today, Haley slammed Biden's decision to rejoin the council on Twitter, also calling out the president's ability to casually ignore so many atrocities and not even mention China by name in the speech. I hope you're excited to see the Taliban join in on some of this fun, because the Taliban's foreign minister has asked to address world leaders at the United Nations next Monday. Now, this is not going to happen, and it's not going to happen this year, but there is always next year. And the Taliban could seriously end up being on UN commissions for women's rights if they were to rejoin. And you kind of get the feeling that they will, because the UN kind of sees the world their way in a lot of ways. They see the world through the Palestinians' eyes, through the Taliban's eyes. That's how they see the world. They don't like a lot of the things that America stands for in this world. And how hilarious would it be to see Taliban members walking around New York City every September? Imagine that. And then there's the World Health Organization. Of course, China's coronavirus accomplice. The adults, of course, are sending your money to the WHO again, as expected. And then finally, the Paris Climate Accord. Biden spent a lot of his speech warning about climate change. So we must re-engage in a plan that, of course, cripples the United States and gives China the biggest leg up advantage it's ever had over this country, incentivizing the Chinese to pollute more while crippling our ability to manufacture.
And the scientists and experts are telling us that we're fast approaching a point of no return in a literal sense. To keep within our reach the vital goal of limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius.
Yes, and the burden for saving the world will fall on the only countries who right now are reducing their emissions. We will suffer the entire burden of this, while the world's biggest polluters will burn away for another 9 years at least. That's if they actually re-enter this plan, which China has not even agreed to do so yet. So if we can manage to get them back in, it's still a terrible plan, and we can't even figure out how to do that. Yes, of course, the adults have got this all figured out. Aren't you so proud? Today, Biden avoided the blame on multiple crises he's created, both domestically and internationally, even going so far as to brag about Afghanistan.
I stand here today for the first time in 20 years with the United States not at war. We've turned the page.
Fair point. We got out of Afghanistan. It's probably a good thing. It might be a little too soon, though, to try and score points off of the disaster that ensued by the way that they got us out of Afghanistan. Just because they did the right thing doesn't mean that they did it with any kind of common sense. They did not. Also today, just after his speech, Democrats creating a new problem for the president, the party blocking $1 billion for Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system in their new spending and debt ceiling bill, which, by the way, just passed in the House. Yes, that's right. Of all the money we want to send all over the world, including to Pakistan and many other places, the progressives in the Democrat Party who hate Israel, the Squad members and others like them, can't stand that this country helps Israel protect innocent life from a barrage of rocket attacks from Gaza, which of course frequently happen. Even as we do send hundreds of millions of dollars to the Palestinians who are firing those rockets, apparently we can't be sending money to the people trying to protect women and children from where those rockets land. Welcome to the state of Democrat foreign policy in this country. It's idiocy. The president also in big trouble with the French right now, one of our greatest allies, after helping to equip Australia with nuclear-powered submarines, upending a French defense contract that was worth about $66 billion to sell diesel-powered submarines to Australia. Macron's had it with them. France has pulled their ambassador over that move. The president also too scared to call out China directly today, as Nikki Haley said, but did vaguely mention our most serious threat, essentially telling the bad actors of the world like China to please be nicer, a message I'm sure landed very hard. And in true liberal fashion at the UN always comes a major push for its true mission, globalization.
We will strive to ensure that basic labor rights, environmental safeguards, and intellectual property are protected, and that the benefits of globalization are shared broadly throughout all our societies.
The benefits of globalization. Well, make sure you know this. There are no benefits for this country, or really any first world country. You should know that. The spreading of American wealth worldwide is a benefit of globalization. The watering down of American quality of life is another benefit, something we're watching happen in real time. Look at your southern border. That's globalization in full effect. How different all of this was to watch today, if you did watch it, from the first address to the UN of our last president.
The true question for the United Nations today, for people all over the world who hope for better lives for themselves and their children, is a basic one. Are we still patriots? As President of the United States, I will always put America first. Just like you, as the leaders of your countries, will always and should always put your countries first.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.